Coming up on a newscast, Team South Korea takes on Uruguay to open their Quarter World Cup campaign. The Taeguk Warriors look to break into the knockout stage this time. Thousands of football fans are expected to gather in the streets to cheer the Korean squad. Authorities as well as Taeguk Warrior supporters and individuals are focused on preventing safety incidents. The nation's central bank raised key interest rate again, a move deemed necessary to fight inflation. Hello and welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Che. Let's begin with the top story at this hour. This has been an exciting World Cup full of upsets and spectacular goals. It's now South Korea's turn to try and take down a giant as they take on Uruguay tonight. Captain Son, the superstar that is expected to empower the Taeguk Warriors, really is expected to play. Shin Se-byuk starts us off.
South Korea is set to open their 2022 World Cup campaign against Uruguay on Thursday. Two-time winners Uruguay, ranked 14th in the world, and with two previous wins against South Korea at the World Cup, is maybe the favorite against the South Korean side, currently placed 28th on the FIFA rankings. All eyes are on whether the Taeguk Warriors will have a compromised team with their star players, with mixed news regarding injuries to captain Son Heung-min and midfielder Hwang Hee-chan. In a press conference on Wednesday, South Korea's national football team head coach Paulo Bento hinted at Son's comeback. However, he also confirmed that there are doubts over Hwang's recovery in time for the game, adding a final decision has yet to be made.
Son Heung-min will play. There's still some time before we make the final decision, but Hwang Hee-chan may not be available to play.
After undergoing surgery on an eye socket fracture early in November, Son has been spotted in training wearing a protective face mask. Hwang Hee-chan, however, is still struggling with discomfort in his hamstring. Meanwhile, for Uruguay, Liverpool striker Darwin Núñez is set to appear despite a minor ankle injury. But the game may come too soon for Barcelona defender Ronald Araujo, as he's still recovering from a thigh problem. If South Korea wins, the team will become only the third Asian side to defeat South American opposition at the World Cup after Japan in 2018 and Saudi Arabia earlier this week. Shin Se-byuk, Arirang News.
Here in the nation, it's feeling like 2002 all over again as fans pour out to the streets and into stadiums to cheer the Taeguk Warriors on. Our issue is out at Gwanghwamun Square in Central Seoul, one of the meccas for the supporters of the home team. Chiu, how's it looking like over there?
Daniel, the square is filled with excitement as we wait for the match to start at 10 p.m. Korea time. The Red Devils, the official supporters of the national soccer team, have opened up the square since late afternoon, and ever since, people have been filing in pretty quickly. Tonight, authorities expect around 40,000 people to come out to public cheering events at 12 stadiums and squares around the country. Of those, 15,000 are expected to be here at Gwanghwamun Square. People say they look forward to what's to come.
Although we're far from Qatar, we're cheering them on as best we can from here, so I hope they fight hard and win.
I think everyone's super excited, everyone's really prideful, it's a wonderful atmosphere, lots of energy, great to be around here.
Initially, it seemed like street cheering events were going to be cancelled following the tragedy in Itaewon last month, but the Red Devils' request to cheer here at the square has been approved by the authorities on the condition that they follow safety management measures.
Well, the excitement and the energy can clearly be felt all the way over here. So, Shiu, do fill us in on what's being done to ensure safety and to prevent accidents.
Daniel, the city, the police, and the Red Devils are making sure that no safety incident ever happens tonight. The Red Devils have divided up the square into different sections so that each section doesn't get overcrowded with people. They've also left passageways for fire trucks or police cars to pass through in case of emergencies. The National Police Agency has dispatched over 40 police officers and 8 teams of riot police to Gwanghwamun Square alone. Around the country, over 180 officers, 9 teams of riot police, and 18 Special Assault Commandmen have been dispatched to public cheering events. Some safety personnel will be at 3 subway station exits at the square, and they will work to effectively disperse the crowd after the match. Daniel?
All right, Hugh, thank you for being out there for us. We appreciate it. Moving on to other stories now, South Korea has quietly become a favorite among arms buyers across the globe. Riding a wave of deals this year, President Yoon seeks to make the country the fourth largest weapons exporter in the world. Won has the details.
All hands on deck to make South Korea one of the world's top 4 arms exporters. That's behind only the U.S., Russia, and France. South Korea's President Yoon Suk-yeol hosted a meeting Thursday on promoting weapons exports, pledging to step up efforts to boost defense exports and secure cutting-edge defense technology, his first since taking office in May.
방위 산업은 미래 신성장 동력이자 첨단 산업을 견인하는 중추입니다. 기술 패권 경쟁이 심화되는 가운데 미래전의 게임 체인저급 무기 체계를 개발할 수 있는 기술 경쟁력을 확보해야 합니다.
Yoon called for better research and investment conditions for defense contractors in an ecosystem that can grow on its own by fostering a more export-oriented industry structure. The meeting comes 4 months after South Korea clinched its biggest ever arms deal with Poland, totaling roughly $12.4 billion, which includes exports of tanks and howitzers. A growing number of countries, including Australia and Norway, are seeking to ramp up defense cooperation, which would help bolster South Korea's capability to counter North Korea's threats while contributing to peace and stability in the international community. So far this year, it's inked $17 billion in export contracts, up from a previous record of $7 billion in 2021, which was the first year South Korea's export deals topped imports.
수출 대상국의 교육 훈련과 운영 노하우 전수, 그리고 후속 군수 지원 등 패키지 지원을 적극 추진할 것입니다.
South Korea's sales surge has also been greased by a willingness to manufacture locally and transfer technologies to buyers so they can produce the weapons themselves. Observers say the dramatic growth in arms exports isn't by accident, but rather part of a deliberate strategy with South Korean firms leveraging a combination of high-level deal-making across multiple administrations in Seoul, commercial technology, and favorable government policies. The nation's defense ministry on Thursday backed President Yoon's ambition by stating a goal to carve out a 5% share in the global arms export market by 2027, which would make South Korea the world's 4th largest defense exporter. 문건영, Arirang News.
The South Korean National Assembly has officially begun its 45-day probe into the Itaewon crowd crush. Talks between the rival parties were drawn out over major sticking points. Lee Kyung-un sheds light on the developments.
It's been a rocky road, but the National Assembly has finally approved a plan for a parliamentary probe into the Itaewon crowd crush that killed 158 people last month during Halloween festivities. The plan is largely based on the last-minute compromise the rival parties struck the previous day. But at Thursday morning's meeting of the newly launched Special Investigation Committee, they had to negotiate again over some key details. At the center of the controversy was the Supreme Prosecutor's Office. The main opposition Democratic Party called for it to be subject to the probe, saying the government's focus on fighting drug crimes contributed in part to the Itaewon crowd crush because the police at the time were focused less on crowd control. But the ruling People Power Party said the claim was politically motivated.
Reforms already took away the prosecution's power to investigate drugs. Furthermore, linking the incident to the government's crackdown on drugs could lead to political war.
We call for members to be guaranteed the freedom to find out the truth about the incident, and we ask for the government's active cooperation when we request documents and testimony.
Previously, at the PPP's request, the DP had called for the probe to be included in the prosecution service in exchange for excluding the Justice Ministry. The final deal does include the prosecution, but only the division in charge of drug crimes. As for the hotly debated presidential office, as previously agreed, it does not include the Presidential Security Service. But it does include the Presidential State Affairs Monitoring Team and the National Crisis Management Center. Altogether, the probe covers 16 agencies and organizations. However, the plan also stated that other organizations may be added if approved by the committee, which could lead to disputes later on. The probe will last for 45 days, which can be extended upon the committee's approval. The actual investigation activities, parliamentary hearings, and on-site inspections will begin after the National Assembly passes next year's budget, which is slated for December 2nd. 이경은, Arirang News.
The sister of North Korea's leader wages a verbal attack against the South Korean government. This is apparently for pushing independent sanctions against the regime. Seoul responded. Han Sung-woo brings the updates.
South Korea's unification ministry has hit back against the insults made to President Yoon Suk-yeol by Kim Yo-jong, the powerful sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un.
The Ministry of Unification views Kim Yo-jong's crude and vulgar remarks and her lack of rudimentary courtesy today towards our head of state as deplorable.
In a briefing on Thursday, ministry spokesperson Cho Jung-hoon said current tensions on the Korean peninsula originate from the North's repeated military provocations and expressed regret at Kim Yo-jong's attitude of shifting the blame onto South Korea.
We also strongly condemn her impure attempts to incite anti-government movements among our people and shake up the system.
Several hours earlier, Kim had issued a statement through the North state-run Korean Central News Agency, where she lambasted the Yoon administration for pursuing independent sanctions against the regime. Kim also accused South Korea of creating a dangerous situation and its people of being passive onlookers, calling Yoon and his aides idiots. She slammed the president by name and even described Seoul as Washington's faithful dog. Han Sung-woo, Arirang News.
Foreign ministry officials from South Korea and Japan met in Tokyo to discuss ways to resolve the long-standing dispute over wartime forced labor compensation. The newly appointed chief of Asian and Pacific Affairs Bureau, Son Min-jung, met her Japanese counterpart Funakoshi Takehiro and decided they should hold further discussions to settle the issue. The last such session was held on October 11th. Thursday's meeting comes after the leaders of the two countries agreed on the need to swiftly resolve this issue during their November 13th summit. The nation's central bank takes another step in hiking to fight inflation. As for growth outlook, the BOK forecasts less than 2% economic expansion next year. Choi Min-jung helps us look beyond the digits.
The Bank of Korea has raised its key interest rate for a record 6th consecutive time, this time by 25 basis points. With the latest hike, the country's benchmark interest rate now stands at 3.25%. The BOK says the decision to increase by a smaller margin compared to October's 50 basis point hike is due to an expectation that the U.S. Federal Reserve will raise rates at a slower pace, as well as exchange rates becoming more stable. However, the hike still comes amid an effort by authorities to tame soaring inflation.
We decided it was necessary to continue with a tightening policy as inflation is expected to remain around 5% for the time being. Rates are expected to continue increasing in the future as well, as inflation will continue to exceed the target level for a considerable period of time.
In October, prices rose by 5.7% compared to a year ago, much higher than the central bank's 2% target. Though the central bank expects the inflation rate to remain in the 5% range until early next year, it forecasts consumer prices to drop as the economy slows. That being said, the inflation outlook for next year has edged down from 3.7% to 3.6%. However, the BOK says this is bound to change considering underlying economic uncertainties at home and abroad. The central bank also said GDP growth for this year will be generally consistent with August's forecast of 2.6%. But the forecast for 2023 sees a drop to 1.7% from a previous projection of 2.1%. Pundits say the BOK's projection for next year's GDP growth is not too concerning as of now, as it's still above 1%, a level regarded as economic recession. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
South Korea has been showing steady progress in the development of self-driving vehicles. Fleets of autonomous cars and taxis are already in operation. From Thursday, the capital began running its first autonomous shuttle bus. Song Yoo-jin provides a glimpse of what to expect.
South Korea's capital city Seoul is cruising its way to becoming smarter. One way it's doing that is through the use of autonomous or self-driving vehicles. The city's first self-driving shuttle bus hit the roads on Thursday after a more than year-long joint effort between the city government and 42dot, a domestic autonomous vehicle startup.
One of our audacious goals is becoming an autonomous driving city. We've already launched and are operating self-driving taxis in the Sangam-dong and Gangnam-gu areas. And with this bus, we're moving closer to establishing a self-driving public transport network.
Right now, I'm at Cheonggae Plaza, which is the start of the self-driving buses route. Now, this is a bus, and as you can see, it's not that big. Inside, however, there's cutting-edge technology that guarantees the convenience and security for passengers. The 8-seater vehicle is at level 4, or high driving automation, which means that it's able to perform all safety-critical driving functions while monitoring the road ahead. We could see that the bus self-navigated its way through narrow roads and jammed streets during our ride-along. But for the sake of safety, there's a driver behind the wheel to take control when necessary. And to provide a comfortable riding experience, there is a full glass roof, large windows, and a widescreen up front.
This area surrounding the Cheonggaecheon stream is extremely challenging, not only for drivers, but also self-driving vehicles as well, as there's a lot of traffic and unexpected situations. So, by running through this route, we believe the bus will compile helpful data that will help improve the overall quality and stability of its autonomous driving system.
The city aims to deploy 3 of these self-driving buses by the end of this year. They'll be traveling a 3.4-kilometer route in downtown Seoul every day except for Sundays at free of charge to passengers. Those who wish to hop on and take a ride around can do so from Friday morning. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News.
The oldest member of BTS will begin national service on December 13th, but that won't prevent the band from performing in one-off shows while Jin is in the military. The Defense Ministry will provide members of the K-pop group with opportunities to take part in events of national interest should they wish to do so. Sources say 29-year-old Jin is set to join the frontline army boot camp in Yeoncheon. He will first undergo 5-week basic training and then be assigned to a local unit. In the meantime, Jin asks his fans not to visit a training center to see him off. An annual event to discuss South Korea's role and responsibility in the international community is held, hosted by the National Research Council for Economics, Humanities, and Social Sciences. This year's Global Korea Forum is joined by experts from public and private think tanks and other institutions. On day one, a wide range of topics were discussed, including ways to deal with the global climate crisis and the changing dynamics of the Indo-Pacific region. On Friday, there will be talks on ways to increase cooperation with ASEAN, joined by the ambassadors of 10 different member states. This year marks the 60th anniversary of diplomatic relations between South Korea and Chile. To commemorate the occasion, experts from the two sides held talks on ways to expand ties by exploring a variety of fields from economy to culture. Itaewon shares with us what was discussed.
60 years. That's how long South Korea and Chile have been in a diplomatic relationship. And to celebrate the anniversary, related experts ranging from government officials, scholars, and economists to journalists gathered in Seoul on Thursday to discuss ways to expand networks.
The Foreign Ministry aims to expand strategic bilateral talks with South American countries while cooperating in a variety of sectors like investment, trade, and culture. Economic diplomacy, such as supply chain ties, will also be strengthened too. And Chile is the best partner for us to achieve that.
In terms of economic cooperation, Chile's government official highlighted how both countries have been able to establish strong trade relations.
During COVID was a stressful situation between commerce, the logistics, but our authorities trust in each other. So Korea gave a good example of trust and facilitated commerce, and also we try to support that confidence.
There were other topics on the table too, including ways to increase cultural exchanges. One former student from the Pontifical Catholic University of Chile who wrote a thesis on K-pop in Latin America says open-mindedness is needed.
I think it's important for Chileans to be more open about new cultures and accept them in their own communities. This will also benefit the relationship between the two countries. This is steadily processing in Chile's society today.
South Korea's government has worked to enhance its collaborations with Chile as Prime Minister Han Duck-soo signed an MOU for bilateral cooperation on mining and mineral resources last month. MOUs for research cooperation in agricultural technologies and democratic talks were also signed between the two countries. Lee Dae-hyun, Arirang News.
Suning, South Korea's college entrance exam wrapped up a week ago. The test slip itself works like a golden ticket somewhat. It can be used to get discounts on shows and performances. Kim Hyun-sung provides some recommendations.
A master of stage and satire, French playwright Molière was born 400 years ago. In light of the 400th anniversary, the National Theatre Company of Korea is staging a special production of Scapin the Schemer, one of Molière's most famous comedies. This time-defying piece first premiered in 1671 at the Royal Palace in France. Molière's comedy guaranteed a big laugh in the royal court. But his humor transcends time and place.
The piece Scapin has been through Geoje, Guri, Jeju Island, and Daejeon before coming here to Seoul and was a hit. In Jeju, the actors almost didn't get to the next line because everybody was clapping so hard.
The piece Scapin is about love and scheming, twists and turns. The newly adapted Korean version takes the original plot, but the director breathes new life into the story by putting in contemporary jokes and satire.
Molière poked fun at aristocrats of the time, but I had to adapt the piece so that it's fitting to our current situation and our sense of humor. I wanted to break that prejudice that French comedy doesn't work in Korea.
And for this year's Suning test takers, tickets will be 40% off. In fact, the test slip from last week's Suning takers will be the golden ticket to get discounts for many more performances as enriching as this one. The musical 42nd Street is another hit performance available at half price with the Suning test slip. It's a classic Broadway piece full of dynamic choreography, music, and acting. What's also special about this musical is that ahead of the show, it has a special tap dance class taught by the musical's choreographer.
We teach a tap dance in the musical, and so many different people came. In the first class, an 8-year-old child and a mother and seniors came to the class.
So if this year's test takers are looking to blow off some steam, how about taking a tour through play and musical theaters? Kim Hyun-sung, Arirang News.
Mild temperatures will prevail across the country for the daytime. Highs will once again exceed the seasonal average by about 4 to 7 degrees Celsius. For places like Gangneung and Gangwon-do province, maximum temperatures will surpass the 20-degree mark. Unseasonably warm temperatures for the daytime will bring wide gaps in daily readings, so make sure to dress in layers. Expect poor air quality for western central regions tomorrow. That includes the Seoul metropolitan area, Chungcheongdo and Jeollabuk-do provinces. For Daegu, air quality will temporarily stand in the bad category for the morning hours. For central parts of the country, scattered outbreaks of rain are in the forecast for the evening. The amount of rain won't be too much, with about 5 millimeters. Tomorrow, Seoul will be starting off at 7 degrees. Chuncheon will be especially cold at 2 degrees. Daily highs in Seoul will reach 15 degrees, Daejeon 17, Gyeongju will make it to 20 degrees Celsius. For early next week, nationwide rain is in the forecast, and after the rain, a powerful cold front will settle onto the peninsula. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
And that's all from us. As always, thank you for watching.